The scripture lessons for this very special sermon on climate change come from Jeremiah 33, verses 14 to 16, and from Luke 21, verses 25 to 28, and 34 to 36. Climate change is the embracing reality of our time. Among all the bewildering and complex issues that humankind faces, climate change is the most urgent reality embracing us and our earthly home. So it demands the very best of the human spirit, intellect, imagination, and hope. It demands a basic change in the way we understand life and view the world. It demands spiritual, political, economic, and social passion, as well as cooperation and ingenuity on an unprecedented scale. Climate change is not just one issue among many. Amongst other things, it is the spiritual challenge of our time. It is not only connected to how we relate to and live in Mother Earth, it is connected to obscene inequality, reckless and self-indulgent consumption, and human entitlement. Climate change begs the questions, who are we? Where do we fit in Creator's imagination? How are we to live in healthy relationship with our earthly home and all creatures? Theologian and ethicist Daniel McGuire says, if religion does not speak to environmental decline, it is an obsolete distraction. Now, although most of us have paid little attention, actually the Bible is full of references to God's creation and human responsibility. The bookends of the Bible speak of rivers of life, right from Genesis through to Revelation. In fact, in one Genesis story, we have rivers flowing out of the Garden of Eden into all the world, bringing life and nourishment. And then, in the last chapter of the book of Revelation, they flow into the city of God, bringing healing, life, and hope. Living in tense and conflicting times, Jeremiah talks about God's covenant and raising up voices to execute justice and righteousness in the land. The passage from the Gospel according to Luke talks about signs in sun and moon, stars, and about distress among the nations, confused by the sea. People will faint from fear and foreboding, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Therefore, in Luke, we hear the phrase, be alert. Be alert. We have not been alert for too long. But now humankind can no longer plead ignorance of global warming and human agency that is causing unparalleled and rapid change in the Earth's climate and related systems. We can no longer say to our grandchildren, I didn't know. So when they look into our eyes and ask, why were you silent? Why did you not take actions which were clearly available to you? What will we say? What will we say to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and future generations? You see, the facts of climate change are legion, the implications overwhelming, the consensus among scientists close to unanimous. In fact, even the global banking system, the International Monetary Fund, NASA, and the global environmental movement are all finding common ground and raising alarms at the political obstinance and more general acquiescence around the world that pervades the human community. Although a growing consensus, even among business leaders all over the world, recognizes that 75% of fossil fuels in the ground need to remain there. And yet, even with that knowledge, we still ramp up exploration and drilling, even in the most sensitive places. One of the persons that I'd love to refer to is Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada, now governor of the Bank of England. He's a banker. And yet, even Mark Carney says we need to leave 75% of fossil fuels in the ground if we are to make any dent in greenhouse gases and global warming. Extreme weather, floods and droughts and hurricanes is becoming normal. Just talk to the insurance industry about how they are having to understand and dig more deeply into the whole issue of global warming for them to have viable businesses and give insurance. Oceans are becoming dangerously acidic. Species are dying out. Even the huge boreal forest stretching across the northern hemisphere is under threat. Although it is interesting and encouraging that communities are coming to some agreement, industries and Aboriginal people and environmentalists are learning slowly to make agreements so that the forest won't be totally destroyed, but there is still threat to that boreal forest. In the Western world, we are fatally addicted to fossil fuels. Even U.S. President George W. Bush says there was an addiction to fossil fuels in the United States. We depend upon hyper-consumerism to fuel our economies and our egos. Each and all of us are embedded in an economic system which can no longer be sustained by our earthly home. There is no convenient enemy. I do not like pointing fingers at any one organization or group of people or individuals because that lets me off the hook. There is not one convenient enemy. All of us are implicated in the way in which greenhouse gases are threatening our very life. Western lifestyles have benefited from a brief moment in human history. Some of us think that the lifestyle and all the privileges we have are normal. They're not. We have been privileged in a very short slice of human history where burning carbon produced uncharacteristic and enormous wealth, of which my generation is the primary beneficiary. And all of that enormous wealth includes tons of stuff. The party is over. We can no longer live the way my generation has lived since the Second World War up to this very moment. The party is over. We can no longer pretend our earthly home is sick, wounded, broken-hearted. The earth is being pushed to its limits. No place is sacred anymore, whether in the midst of tropical rainforests or the Arctic Ocean. Humankind as consumer and plunderer has replaced humankind as citizen and spiritual being. So, how do we change our ways? First, listen. Listen. Vietnamese Buddhist priest Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "What we most need to do is to hear within us the sounds of the earth crying." A spiritual revolution is needed if we are going to confront the environmental challenges that face us. So the first thing is listen. Listen. Where is the earth under stress or attack near you? What voices are being raised to protect those sacred places near you? Be alert. Open eyes, ears, and heart to the cries of the earth. Secondly, practice gratitude. Rabbi Abraham Heschel wrote, "Our goal should be to live in radical amazement I love that phrase, to live in radical amazement for the gift of life and all its abundance and its curiosity and so on. We live in a beautiful world. Our earthly home is amazingly fragile, complex, resilient, and stunning. So regardless of how anxious, bewildered, depressed, or outraged we feel in the face of climate change and other realities wounding our earthly home, we always begin with gratitude. Gratitude for beauty, for water, for food, trees, butterflies, cougars, art, music, humor, imagination, eco-justice, human justice, relationships with one another and with the earth. So part of gratitude for me is recognizing where is your sacred place? Where's the place where your soul is welcomed and then nurtured? Where you feel intense gratitude for being alive within the embrace of Mother Earth. Where is that special place that renews your spirit and just emphasizes how wonderful it is to be alive? Third, pray. I encourage all of us to develop a simple daily prayer which expresses gratitude for Mother Earth in all of her splendor. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be your own prayer of gratitude for Mother Earth and all that she gives you and your community and everybody in the world. And then pray for those places that you know of wreckage and destruction, whether it's the oceans or the forests or the Antarctic, endangered species, indigenous lands being mercilessly exploited and plundered, your neighborhood stream. You know, there are many resources available now. It wasn't true a number of years ago, but there are so many resources to help us pray into understanding our place in the earth. Books such as Earth Prayers or Global Chorus and Living Ecological Justice are all resources that are available and give us strength and courage in a very simple and direct way. And the last one is to act. So listen, come to life with gratitude, pray, and then act. There are people in all walks of life in all parts of the world who are hearing Earth's cries and responding with faithful imagination. In the face of powerful forces, people are rising in prophetic voice to reverse the plundering and the consuming of Mother Earth. Paul Hawken, in a wonderful book, talks about blessed unrest sweeping across the world. And you know, when you get discouraged, you look at that book and, oh yeah, there's groups of 3 or 4 people in India or groups of people in Africa or Asia, everywhere all over the world. Hawkins says, you know, there are millions of organizations from 2 or 3 to thousands. And it's a movement that cannot be stopped because people are coming alert and alive. And it's all over the world, in every country, in every community. So no politician, no corporation, no individual, no dictator, no democratically elected person can stop it, says Paul Hawken. Blessed unrest. There is a wave of love of the earth and of people who want to take action to ensure its continuing beauty. Government leaders, I believe, need to hear unequivocally that their people demand effective action. And now is the time for cooperative and creative action around the world. I believe this is our time. This is the moment when faith communities can shine the light of holy inspiration on the most challenging spiritual crisis humankind has faced. Now, I'm in Alberta. the fossil fuel center of Canada. But we have a new government here who is committed to climate action. It was quite an astounding thing, really. Back on November 22nd, in the fall of 2015, when the new premier stood on a platform with 4 major corporate leaders in the oil patch, plus First Nations leadership, plus the environmental leadership and the environment minister, they were all standing together saying, we need to learn how to cooperate together. It was an amazing moment, one which many of us thought would never happen. Although some of us had said in meetings, wouldn't it be great if all the sectors got together on the same stage? Well, they did. Now the question is, how can we encourage them to follow up and say, you're on the right path? That's leadership from the corporate world, the political world, the environmental world, the First Nations world. That's leadership. And we need to support that against all the naysayers. And then we have a new federal government who is determined to bring those leaders together from across the country and say, you know what? Canada is a beautiful, amazing place, which we say we love in our hearts and in our minds. And we do. But we've got some things to do around climate change and about the future of Canada. And I think we have a moment in time when it appears that leaders from all sectors are trying to find ways to care for the earth in a real and a meaningful way. And we need to support those efforts and encourage them, push them further, and then hold them accountable. Now, overwhelming? Yes. These issues. Bewildering? Definitely bewildering for many of us. Impossible? Well, maybe. A great time to be alive and to be the church? Yes. Without doubt, it's a great time to be part of a spiritual community. This is our time. This is the moment of grace and of transformation. Because it is a spiritual question we are dealing with of the most profound kind. This is our time to help our society come to grips with the major embracing reality of our time. So the question is, as we conclude, what kind of ancestors will we be for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren? What kind of ancestors will we be? What legacy will we leave them? Sisters and brothers, these are spiritual questions going to the heart of honoring our sacred earthly home and what it is to be children of Creator, children of God who seeks justice and mercy and love and peace in this beautiful world. This is our time. Let us seize the moment. May it be so. Amen.